Hello, poetry lovers. The video tonight shows the creation of a new piece entitled Spring. Stick around to the end of the video to see the completed first draft of this poem. This poem was written quite some time ago. I had been brainstorming it for a few days, at least, but I think the themes I ended up exploring had been kind of swirling around in my head for more than a month before I started writing. We were nearing the end of what had been a pretty stressful winter, and I wanted to write a piece about that oh-so-overdone poetic topic, spring. But I was really most interested in exploring the alternate meanings of that word, the idea of a tight coil of wire with its connotations of tension and latent force. So that's exactly where I began. But I wasn't quite sure where I was going with it, so I just jumped in. Around about the fourth line, I realized unstructured free verse wasn't quite right for this. I shifted to unrhymed tercets, or three-line stanzas, with lines of approximately the same length. I felt this form would suggest the repetitive circling motion of an actual spring, and that the similar length lines would visually mimic a spring's uniform curves. I liked this choice for the structure of the poem, but I kept struggling with how the poem was unfolding, and I moved pretty slowly. By the third stanza, I knew I needed to introduce the contrasting definition of spring that was the other theme of this piece, so I tied the idea of tension in a spring to the tension I feel physically when I'm cold. Much great poetry really hinges on the marriage of theoretical and physical realities, the concrete and the abstract. So in and following the fourth stanza, I drilled down into increasingly specific concrete details. I made the choice here to use the second person, you, which can often trip up a poem if the reader can't truly relate to the details. I took that risk because I wanted the tension and the physicality of the moment to be really immediate for the reader. But I knew in order for the reader to connect and not find the you off-putting, I needed to put them into the physical moment of the poem in ways that could help them connect. So I introduced several images in this section to help create the sense of internal tension I wanted to convey. I referenced the January 6th attack on the US Capitol. I talked about a baby cutting teeth, which is really unpleasant for everyone involved. I used hyperbole to express the idea of carrying a huge pile of stuff through ankle-deep slush. I mentioned the way hands can crack and even bleed in the coldest winters. All of these images were my attempt to express the sense of tension and discomfort in a way the reader could feel, both emotionally and physically. I knew that I wanted the poem to end with the image of geese flying north, the first real image of winter's end in the poem, but the original ending I drafted didn't quite achieve what I wanted. Although I'm not crazy about the wording in the last line, I love that it's in iambic pentameter, so this line is definitely one to explore in revision. When I finish a piece, there's always a total high, at least for a few hours. And then when I look back over it, some flaws seem so serious and some alternate wording so obvious that it can be hard to believe I made such total blunders. But whether you love it or hate it, here's the first draft of Spring, written in 22 minutes on February 18th, 2021. Spring, as in a tightly coiled wire primed to fire back against whatever pressure it encounters. As in one circle feeding another, line upon line. Rather, one line, endlessly carving circumference of air. The kind of tension on the coldest day in years. February's center, 6 weeks further into winter than the insurrection. Your daughter has cut 7 teeth in as many weeks, and grinds incisors, top to bottom, with a noise like ice cracking the oak's long limbs. You're carrying everything in creation across an apartment parking lot, snow to your ankles slushing with the grime of 1,000 tires miles, knuckles wet with those few cells of red blood seeping from the cracked skin of gloveless hands. You are certain sleep will not come tonight. Already the cold tightens one click closer to 3 a.m. when you'll lie awake, bone-chilled, circling a worry years early. Your daughter wedged into such discontent. A screw to either cinch or split. Spring, as in an object primed to return force for force. Snow packs slick underfoot. The car door sloughs salt, and then a high call. Above apartment roofs, shrunken by distance, geese in a massive V soar north, an arrow pulling winter at its back. Thanks for watching this episode of Ars Poeticat. If you enjoyed watching poetry happen, please like and subscribe. Then go make some art.